The transfer window is in full swing now. There's only 3 weeks left as it closes start of September, I think.
Yes.
So there's going to be probably quite a few more transfers, but none, or maybe one, as big as Jack Grealish to Man City, which was £100 million to get Villa's captain away from Birmingham, the city, not the club. And yeah, Jack, please just speak about the thing.
As far as I'm concerned now, I have no affiliation towards Jack Grealish anymore. There are going to be Villa fans that wish him well and support his career at Man City, and but that, frankly, that does not interest me. I'm much more invested in that owners now. I mean, especially because of the fact that our chief executive came out and did this really honest interview about everything that happened with Grealish, about the fact that he insisted on there being a release clause for Champions League clubs, and then made his decision. Obviously, it was going to be very emotional because he's been at the club for 20 years, similar to Messi that we'll talk about later. But I can understand why he went, and I'm also still quite hurt. I mean, you can understand that Villa aren't really at where he wants to be. He wants to be in the Champions League week in, week out. He wants to be a starting player in the England team. He wants to win trophies, and Villa just aren't there yet. We will be in about 2-3 years. I'd like to think we'll be knocking on that door, but we're not there yet.
The thing is,
it's fair enough he's gone, but at the same time, if he inserted that minimum release clause when he signed his contract last year, he didn't need to give it all the big I am, my city, my club, talking about the end of his contract being in 2025, insinuating that he was in for the long haul. Oh, I spoke to the owners and, the owners sold me the project. The owners spoke to him, but in his head he was still thinking, well, I'm, hopefully a bigger club comes in for me, and when they do, I'm going to be off my top. I
disagree with that, though. You can't put a fault against him, because he comes out at that point and goes, oh, I've signed this brand new contract, it's great, but I'm here for the money, and I do love this club, but also I want to leave next summer. And I would have liked him. You've got to say what you got to say.
Also,
it's just PR at the end of the day.
I can't remember who said it, but when we were talking about the Man United links, I think last summer, I think we were one of the first podcasts we've done, and there was all the links that Jack Grealish might go towards Man United. There was a lot. I can't remember which of you said it, but one of you said you wouldn't feel that hard done by if he was to leave. It was something that maybe he earned and maybe he could have gone. I'm interested to see what you think's changed in that scenario. It's just because I remember you saying you wouldn't feel that hard done on him or that hard done by if he left you.
I think that was probably me, because I feel like that now. And he signed his contract last summer, and obviously, like Jack said, they put the £100 million release clause in. And if last summer we'd have got £100 million for Jack Grealish, that's a ridiculous amount of money for any player. And to get it, that's obviously to record transfer for a British player, record Premier League transfer as well. And it's just that's a hell of a lot of money. And yeah, maybe we wanted him to stay, and we definitely wanted him to stay, but I think it's possibly a good thing for Villa.
I mean, obviously, when we found out that we'd accepted a bid, it hurt. And when it finally came out that Grealish had made his decision that he was going to go, it hurt. But when you look at the money that we actually got for him, an academy product, and that's also going to serve as motivation for our other academy products. Look at Jack Grealish. Look what he's done. That line is there for you if you work hard enough, if you apply yourself, and if you develop that end product. There is a Jack. We're looking for the next Jack Grealish, and he's not even part of the. Jack Grealish didn't even come through our new, improved academy system. So I mean, the likelihood of us getting a Jack Grealish is even higher than before. Not to say that it's certain, but
yeah, it makes it more likely.
But we've only really had two, genuinely good first-team academy graduates in the last 15 years, I'd say, and that's Grealish and that's Gabby.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call Gareth Barry academy graduate, because we signed him at 16.
Yeah, we signed him from Brighton, I think.
Yeah.
What I don't get from well, not all Villa fans, but some Villa fans, is them saying that he's basically that Grealish is dead to them now. Like they don't care anymore. Like obviously, I'm not gonna follow his career massively at City or anything, but like I still like him as a player. He's the best player. I think he's the best player Villa have ever had, or certainly in like Premier League years or modern football.
Yeah.
And he's not a club legend, mostly because of the fact that he left. He's an icon, I guess, like because he's given a lot to Villa, got us promoted, kept us up, got us to cup finals, and a lot of that single-handedly.
Are you talking about his status as a Villa player in terms of football manager categories?
No, I mean, yeah,
you are, aren't you?
But I wasn't.
Because you've got icons in football manager, you've got legends, and I think there's a third category. It's like key players, or icons, and
favoured people.
Favoured icons and legends. So he's not a legend, but he's an icon.
But yeah, I think he will finish his career at Villa. I think he'll have his 5 or 6 years at City.
A lot of Villa fans think that. A lot of Villa fans think he'll come. That once he's done with City, he'll come back and have his like farewell tour at Villa, and hopefully by the time he does come back, we're going to be, I think, a European club. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd hope so. And I think he'd be welcome back as well. At the moment, it's all a bit bitter and a bit.
Yeah, I think I need time to kind of get over it.
Yeah,
I am still quite bitter right now.
I think you'll find this goes quite quickly. I think it's happened with like Rooney going back to Everton, and it's been even like Ashley Young now coming back to you now, and literally like I think when he left for Man United, that maybe have been the same thing as what you feel towards Jack at the moment.
Yeah, well, up until the day that we read that the bid had actually been accepted, not when they put it in, or when there were rumours, well, we're expected to accept it, until it said the bid's been accepted. I was 50-50 whether he would leave or not, because it's a weird time, I think, for him to go. Last summer I would have got it, possibly next summer I would have understood it as well, but this summer feels like strange.
How we did this season.
Yeah, it feels like strange time, but then I guess he's in the prime of his career, and he wants to start winning trophies. But imagine if he's going to win loads of trophies at City, and that'd be great. But if Villa win a trophy this season, and City, well, they're probably going to win at least one, aren't they? But if they don't, could you imagine how bad he would feel, even if they do win a trophy and Villa even win the League Cup or something, and he's not part of that team, he'll think, oh, damn, I could have done that.
First trophy since, I mean, discounting the playoffs.
97, 96?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've not won anything in the 21st century. He could have, as the captain, lifted Villa's first trophy in like at least 20 years.
But Jack,
now he's not going to have that.
Can I put this question to you? That I think every, like, when you talked about a club's history, you talk about like eras and stuff, and you can go eras and sort of like decades, 60s, 70s, 80s. I know from Wolves' standpoint, we've had Billy Wright in 50s, Steve Bull in the 90s or whatever. When you look back at like the noughties, as it were, or this era, this last 10 years of Villa.
The tens.
Yeah, the tens. Who is Villa's most influential player of those last 8, 9, 10 years? Because surely it's Grealish.
I'd say Grealish, yeah. I'd say Grealish has probably got to be the biggest one there. Maybe Christian Benteke, Gabriel Bondlehor. And then in the championship years, yeah, I'd say Grealish. I'd say maybe John Terry as well for what he's given us as a player and as a staff member. Maybe James Chester because he was a big presence in the Villa.
Scraping the bottom bar here.
I'd say Jack Grealish.
I mean Grealish, yeah, as the number one most influential. And the thing is, I think that extends to beyond the tens. I think that extends to, I think he's a more influential player for Villa than we've had before. I mean, we've had players like John Carew, Ashley Young, Gabriel Bondlehor. I think he exceeds all of those. And then you go even further back, you've got Olaf Melberg, you've got players like Dion Dublin, you've got Paul Merson. And
Let's not go all the way back here. Let's not go all the way back.
Paul McGraw, who's obviously the most famous one. But I was going to go on to what Villa have done with the Grealish money, I guess, because Villa are still in profit.
Can I say my thing first, because it does connect to this in some way?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
When we were talking about when the Bale money, obviously the Gareth Bale money came for Spurs, there was a lot of, they made the signings beforehand. Do you think the money that was spent on Buendia, Bailey, Ings, etc. were in preparation for this, or do you think it was an addition to? Do you think this would have happened if Grealish was not expected to go?
I think it was either. The Buendia one, I think that was just the sign we wanted to make. Bailey, I think, possibly was Grealish. Ings, definitely, I think, was Jack Grealish, because we realised we had loads of money coming in, and I thought we can get this player for relatively cheap for what he can do. Get him in, but I reckon from Villa there was two plans: one keeping Grealish, one getting rid of him. And I think there was possibly, obviously you've got to replace his contribution, so getting in a couple of extra players is important. But yeah, I think some of the transfers would have happened, not all of them, but some of them, if that happened. But I think that Villa have replaced him well. I mean, we don't know yet because they've not played any competitive games. But what do you think, Jack?
This is what you said earlier. That Grealish leaving is obviously a massive loss for Villa. That I think it can benefit us, because we, especially in that, and I was listening to a different podcast today, especially in that first season we came up, we were criminally over-reliant on, you're right there, we were criminally over-reliant on Jack Grealish, and if it wasn't for him, we'd have gone down. And this season, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have done half as well as we'd have done this season. And debatably, we probably should have finished a couple of places better this season, if not for our COVID outbreak in January and losing Grealish again for a big chunk of our season.
Yeah.
But this is something that our chief executive has said, that all the responsibilities that Grealish was said to have had last season would spread it out. So we've got Buendia for goal contributions in terms of assists, in terms of through balls, ball carrying. We've got Leon Bailey as a direct player. He's very, very quick. He can also score goals. And then in terms of end product, we've got Danny Ings. And it looks like we are going to change formation this season, favouring a 4-4-2.
Well, possibly. We don't really know yet.
Well, the Salah, we had a friendly against Salernitana. We started with a 4-4-2. We started with Watkins and Ings. I mean, obviously we didn't have a full team because Buendia had a bit of a knock and Bailey was still in isolation. So I think we were playing El Ghazi and Jaden Philogene-Bidace, but we were playing with that shape, with McGinn and Nakamba in the middle.
I think it'll be quite flexible, though, what Villa play.
Yeah, I think we're going to be quite versatile in terms of adapting our formations to games that we're playing.
The one thing I worry about without Grealish now is that when we were looking at the points per game of what you did with Grealish and without Grealish, if you extended that to a 30-game season, that points per game level, you would have finished 18th. So it's whether I think it's more important now that these transfers you bring in are going to be exceptional, because without Grealish you were effectively relegation fodder. I know it's not full season and maybe fixtures weren't as easy dependent on, but that's still not a worrying prospect that your form did drop extensively without Grealish.
Yeah, I'd say Villa this season is sort of quite a bit of an unknown, because obviously, like we had last season, a large portion of it without Grealish, where our form did falter after that COVID break that we had to have. And then when he came back for the last two games of the season, we beat Tottenham and Chelsea. So there's like an obvious thing there. But
and to be fair, those games, I don't think we were too over reliant on Grealish for those games.
True, but
not really.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, like, you always knew that Grealish was missing from that team. That obviously he was injured in, but now that he's not part of the squad, now we've had to bring all these players in to give different things. It could go either way. I think the vast majority of the Villa fan base are very positive for this season. A lot are saying we're going to finish top half, 8th, possibly push into 7th in the Europa Conference League. But then again, we don't know, because we don't know what a team without Grealish looks like. Without Grealish in the squad, without Grealish as part of the dressing room.
It's exciting.
Anything could happen. It is. What do you think? I know we've talked about a lot about Villa, so we can move on pretty soon. But I'm just wondering what Sam thought, because he's been very silent for the first 15 minutes of this podcast. What's your thought on Villa's chances this season, sort of from the outside?
Again, I think you're gonna struggle a little bit. I think there's a lot of blending of new signings in, especially where I think especially attacking wise, those new signings are going to be quite pivotal. And if they don't meld straight away, then you will struggle a little bit. But I think it will come up quite well. Like, Bailey's quite a direct player from Bayer Leverkusen. I think Buendia's numbers just are off incredible. I think he was the only, in terms of De Bruyne, created more chances when he was in the Premier League with Norwich. I think the season before when they went down. And then obviously did record numbers in the Championship. So I think it's a good player to bring in. Whether he melds straight away, obviously it's experience in the Prem already, but it's experience with a new team and how the new team works and constructs and stuff. I think it'll go well. Your signings all point to the right way. I think defensively you're still a bit shot to pieces, and you maybe relied a bit too much on Martinez. On whether he can outperform XG again would be up to debate. And obviously, I think that back line is still worrisome, if anything. But yeah, I think you'll do well this season. I think you'll be 10th, 9th, something like that. Especially if you bring some more people in. But I think anything other, it has to be maybe build one more season, because Jack Grealish would put you back quite a bit.
Yeah,